Helen, you can't join us for the banquet to find out about the winners because you are somewhere else at the moment. Where are you?
Yes, I'm so sorry that I won't be able to be at the banquet. First, I'd like to say what a great honor it's been to be a finalist. But unfortunately, I'm living and working in the north, in a northern little village called Kangersuk, which is in Kativik. And if you look at a map of Quebec and you look at the perimeter of Quebec on Ungava Bay, you will find 14 communities. These are all Inuit communities, and it's called Kativik.
This is not the first time that you have transplanted yourself for an experience out of your home environment, and that really forms the basis of your article, My China. How is it that you were so interested in going to China?
Well, actually, I had some serious health issues when I retired in 2005, which kept me pretty close to home. So I did a little bit of work with UVic, UBC, and Vancouver Island University. And I took the opportunity to do a couple of volunteering stints. One was in Africa, in Kenya, for a month. And then as my health returned, the next year I did a 3-month volunteer job in India. And when I got home, I had a dinner party with a bunch of my retired friends. And one of my friends, Sandy Reed, who was a retired principal, had been in China. And I thought, why am I doing this all volunteer? Volunteering is great, but gee, if I could get paid, wouldn't that be a concept? So I asked him what it was like, and he told me it was fantastic. So he gave me the name of the lady at the university, and I phoned her. And by golly, the next thing I knew, I was hired. And then it came up time for the renewal of the contract, and I thought, gee, that was pretty good. I think I'll just try another 6 months. Well, of course, that 6 months turned into 10 years. You might say, why would you want to do that? Well, I just absolutely fell in love with the people. And the most important thing was that I met this lovely family who were involved in the Kung Fu, in Southern Fujian style Kung Fu called dog boxing. It's a Dishu, Dishu. And I was introduced to that by one of my students in the first year I was there. His name was Bert. Bert was in a class of about 45 students. They were freshmen. I was teaching freshmen and sophomore oral English. And Bert was sitting way at the back of the room, and I kind of didn't see him and with all these faces. And I soon discovered that his English was excellent. And I really appreciated him. He was so wonderful. And so after about 3 months, he said to me, would you like to meet my father? He's a national treasure because of his Kung Fu training, and he takes students from all over the world. Would you like to come to a practice? Oh, sure. So I said, that'd be great. So I went to the practice, and there were some people there from England at that time, and they were preparing for a championship. Well, I was horrified, and I sat in the corner thinking, "Oh my goodness, I hope they don't ask me to do anything," because I saw all these people doing the dog boxing, and as it suggests, it's a lot of combat, but it's all done on the floor.
Would I be correct in saying that you hadn't brushed up on your kung fu before going?
No, not at all. And I was horrified. So I at the end of the practice, I got up very quickly and sort of headed for the door because I was so relieved they didn't ask me to do anything. And when I was outside, Bert's father and older brother approached me and invited me to the banquet following the Kung Fu match, which was going to be held a few days later. So about a week and a half later, I was invited to this banquet, and there must have been 50 or 60 people there, and they were all members of this Kung Fu club. And I was welcomed like a queen. People were just so lovely to me because Bert was my student. And from there, I just became a member of the Kung Fu family. And that was the draw. It was compelling because I ended up studying Kung Fu with Bert's father, Master Lin, for the nine remaining years. And I did, they got me involved in competitions, and I took 3 gold medals and in the Kung Fu competitions, in their national and international competitions. So I was a devotee. I did training 3 times a week. And in my little apartment, I bought mats so I could practice every day. And I also studied privately Tai Chi.
What's amazing about this conversation, Helen, is that very little, if any, of the story you just told me is in the article. And so here, beyond the wonders of the article you gave, you're talking about this incredible health recovery to go across the world to become a kung fu champion and celebrity. I this interview is just I don't know, it's blowing up into something I never expected. Um, but I think the thing that was most touching to me about your article was when you talked about a sense of vulnerability that you had in a country of 1.5 billion people, where you realized at a certain point that you had a kind of dependence on other people, and you were going to need them to coach you a little bit to live independently as you would expect. What was that experience for you like? I mean, you've been a teacher, you've been in charge of the classroom, you've sort of determined your own choices, and this puts you in a different situation. How did that experience affect you?
Well, it was very humbling, let me tell you, when you walk down the street in China and you can't read one single word. You're totally illiterate. And I found out what it was like being illiterate, and I found out what it's like being a minority. It was a very different kind of experience. Then I realized for people coming to Canada, new Canadians, how difficult it must be for them to relate to a different culture, to a different language, and to being heard and being understood. So I really had that kind of opportunity. And sometimes it was extremely frustrating. But then I had to realize that my frustrations were very minor compared to the frustrations new Canadians feel here. I taught in East Vancouver in the late 70s, and that was the time of the Vietnam War, and that was the time of the boat children. And I taught music at a school called G.D. Cunningham in East Van, and it was a big school of about 600 kids, K-7. And I taught music, so I would have the regular classes plus the Vietnamese boat children. So my classes were between 40 and 50. And these little Vietnamese kids would come in and they would just look at me, but we knew music was going to really help them to learn some words and learn some English. And I had no idea what they felt like. And I regret some of the things I did. I was probably not very sympathetic uh, to them or to many of the other immigrant children who were there. I really had no idea what it was going to be like. So it was a good lesson. And where I'm currently working in Kangaroosuk, I'm working with a population of Inuit people, and most of the Inuits here speak a little bit of English and a little bit of French, but their main language is Inuktitut. So I'm faced with the same situation where I need to slow down, listen, and spend time listening, not talking. And this is the way that you must get along in a different environment. And I think that we as teachers, I know my mother always said to me, don't be a teacher because teachers are so bossy, they never listen. That I keep hearing that. And I have to remind myself that humility is the key to making connections.
Well, Helen, wonderful insights, and you have contributed to our association also by serving on our board uh, and for a time period, which we appreciate. I could talk to you about all these things for a very long time, but we don't have as much time as I would like. Um, I imagine that there'll be some requests to you, possibly from other people who would like to have a video interview with you about your experiences because it's really intriguing and exciting. But before I let you go, back to your dark evening there in northern Quebec, I want to let you know, Helen, that the votes have been tabulated for the PostScript Excellence Award. And our communications committee has selected your article, My China, as the winner of the PostScript Excellence Award for Best Travel Article. So congratulations, Helene McGall. You are our winner.
Thank you. I'm just so excited. You can't believe that. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever won an award like this before, so I'm thrilled. Yay.
Well, I have to remind you about your
Thank you.
multiple Kung Fu gold medals. You didn't have to hit anybody to get this award, though, so maybe it's maybe it's a little different.
Well, I'm thrilled, Tim. Thank you very much. Thank you to the BCRTA and thank you to your committee. It's a great honor. I really appreciate it. Thank you.